What? Just take 12. That's episode 1.
To this podcast listening of Handsome Molly. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge that we are on the traditional homelands of the Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, and Musqueam nations. My name is Anita Rochon. I am the co-artistic director of the CHOP Theatre, which is a company that has co-produced this podcast along with Jen Moss and Jar Audio. So glad you're here. This is going to be the first time that we are, mostly except for Jen and I, listening to this podcast. So these are some of the actors that were in the podcast. So these are all on fresh ears. So it is a special day for us, and we feel grateful to this festival for hosting this listening party. So we are going to kind of take you through the process of adapting this novel, which is by Joelle Anthony, a book called Restoring Harmony, a TYA book that went from book to script form, which you'll hear some of the raw scenes today, and then the full podcast version. Before we do that, though, I would love us to go down the table and do a quick introduction of who you are, who you play, and kind of what you do in the world. Sure. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Camille. I play Spill in the podcast, as well as for today, radio announcer and announcement. I'm an actor and improviser based here in Vancouver. I do film and TV as well as theater, but this was my first time doing any voice work. So it was really cool to get the chance to work with the CHOP and Jar and try that out for the first time.
Hi, my name is June. Today I'll be playing both Molly and Akiko in 2 separate scenes. I'm the dramaturg and co-writer of this audio drama. This is my first time producing and creating a podcast and adapting from a novel, so it was a really excellent opportunity to work with Jar and with the CHOP over the course of a year to get to this point today. So really excited to share this work with you. Thank you so much for being here.
My name is Vera Petro-Paolo, and I'm 12 years old, and I'm a performer. I love to sing and dance and act, and I really, really like cats.
Excellent. And I'm Jen Moss with Jar Audio. So I come from quite a long career working in radio, and then made the jump into podcasting, started a company, and this is exciting for me because it's our company's first fiction podcast. So I co-wrote the adaptation with a number of other people, including June was instrumental in that. And just really excited to share it with you all. Thank you so much for coming.
I should also say Amelia Symington-Fetty, who is the co-artistic director of the CHOP, was also one of the dramaturgs and writers. She can't be here today because she's launching her novel next door. So she's busy. As June said, over the course of the year, we began with this novel and then wrote scripts based on that to record. So today, what Jen will read a little bit of a scene. Then we will read the scene raw here with the actors, and then we'll play the finished product.
And it's kind of interesting. One of the things you'll notice is that the character names aren't all the same, and we changed quite a lot in order to move it first into any kind of performance-based medium requires sort of more driving action and some simplification. And then you'll hear when we adapt it to audio, there are even more additional changes that get made. So this is the original book, and it's near the beginning. It's page 4. And you'll hear the author, Joelle Anthony. She's just sort of describing the world a little bit and setting up the journey that this young character is about to go on. It's set in a dystopian near future. So the world, the book was written over 10 years ago. And at the time that it was written, it was a kind of outrageous, terrible future that was imagined with, climate change and viruses. So so now it feels a little closer to home. That's all I'm going to say about that. So here we go. Before the collapse, Grandpa could have driven his car to restaurants and hired someone to do his laundry. But now, with so many businesses closed and everyone too careful with their money to employ a housekeeper, he'd probably have to fend for himself. Mom had convinced herself that he was living in squalor without anything to eat. To keep Mom from doing something crazy like going to Oregon herself, I had been elected to make the trip instead. Katie, that's her sister, flatly refused to go because she was planning the wedding of the century. But even if she'd wanted to, I doubt my dad would have trusted her. She'd either get distracted by the stores along the way and spend all her money on clothes, or she'd come running home at the first sign of hardship. It had taken my dad a while to get the money together. The people on our tiny island barter for almost everything, and Dad had to export most of our early lettuce, leeks, and spinach to Vancouver Island to raise the cash. He'd gotten as much as he could, and I think that some of our friends had chipped in to help too, but I was still going to have to be very careful with my money. The wind tossed the little plane from side to side, and I grabbed at the seat in front of me. The other 9 passengers held on too, their hands tightly gripping the cracked leather seats, nervous laughter filling the cabin. Just a little turbulence, the pilot called from the cockpit. Nothing to worry about. Easy for him to say. I had all kinds of things to worry about, like, would my Aunt Poppy's American boyfriend be there to meet me when the plane landed? And if he wasn't, how much trouble would I be in? Aunt Poppy had broken all kinds of laws, sneaking me aboard this government flight from Victoria to Seattle, risking God knows what, maybe even prison. I wasn't sure what they did to teenagers who broke international law, but I didn't want to find out. Okay, so that gives you a sense of the voice of the 14-year-old main character, Molly. We made a bunch of changes, didn't we, June, to that? So for one thing, she doesn't have a sister. For another thing, I think we killed her dad. And we sort of changed the geography a little bit so that she is actually leaving for Seattle via a small plane from Vancouver. And instead of her Aunt Poppy helping her cross the border illegally, it's actually her kind of slightly hipper, slightly younger cousin, Akiko. Right. Mm-hmm. Who appears in the first scene. So maybe, is that the plan, to read that scene? Yeah. Okay.
We'll read the very first scene of the podcast here.
Actually, I don't have it to me.
Oh, you don't have it. Okay, here, we'll just take that. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I'll read the sound directions, because this will start to give you a sense of how it changes when you morph it into a writing for the ear rather than for the page.
Would you like to read all of these little things too, or just the
sound effects? I'll skip those little tiny ones. You can, yeah.
Okay.
All right, so I'll just read the big sound directions. So this is Akiko's apartment. It's morning, and Molly is in the bedroom listening to the radio, which is saying the following. You're listening to Vancouver's pirate radio.
Camille's got it.
Oh, sorry. Oh, Camille's reading it. Oh, sorry, Camille. Oh, sorry. Then I don't. Okay, sorry. Okay. You're all right. Announcer.
Yeah, announcer.
Should we just say who we are?
Yeah, good idea.
Sure. Announcer. And announcement.
Akiko.
Molly.
Sound effects.
Yeah.
You're listening to Vancouver's pirated radio station, Van X. The time is now 5:20 p.m. on Monday, July 2nd, 2061. The air quality index is currently 520. Make sure to keep your windows closed and use your air shield inhaler to protect your lungs from exposure to...
Molly, you ready?
Pico knocks on the door. Heels clicking on a wooden floor. The door opens.
Hey, cuz. Are they working out for you?
Heels. Really?
Not just any heels. They're vintage Jimmy Choos. Raj got them for me for my birthday. Probably cost a fortune.
Wow. These are tall.
I know. Raj has great taste. And he's got connections.
Molly stumbles.
Oops.
Oh my god, Malls! If you can't even walk in heels, you'll never make it across the border.
Sorry. On the farm, I'm usually barefoot or in gumboots.
Ew. Look, you gotta concentrate if you wanna pass as moi, okay? I've had 21 years to perfect this look. Stand tall, shoulders back, boobs out.
The last part might be a problem.
Try to walk again.
Click, click, click. High heels on the wooden floor.
Better.
Maybe I should just carry the heels until we get to the float plane.
Keep them on. You need the practice. Shoot, it's 5:30. Time to go. Curfew starts early in Vancouver. Last chance to leave your fiddle with me.
No way. Jules goes where I go.
You know it's a little weird, right? That you've named your fiddle?
My grandfather named her. She belonged to him.
Sure, weirdo. Whatever, there's more important stuff to worry about. Like, do you remember what Raj looks like?
There's only like 1,000 pictures of him on your dresser.
True. He is cute, right?
Absolutely.
You got everything you need for the trip? Cash? Shoes? My passport?
Unzipping of the bag.
Yep, it's all right here.
God, I hate that photo of me. My bangs look so flat. But it'll work for you.
Thanks.
Zip up the bag.
Move it! Move it!
Okay, everything's in the bag. These heels are killing me.
You look good. Like me. You can change into shoes when you get to Seattle. No one's looking for a 14-year-old runaway.
All right. Should we keep going?
Yeah, I think we're reading to the next page.
Okay, so now this is sort of a different location. It's the exterior of a street in Vancouver. In the morning still. City noises outside the entrance to a bustling airport garbled PA system.
Attention all passengers, the 6 p.m. Harbinger Air Flight, Vancouver for Seattle, will depart in 15 minutes from the South Gangplank. Passengers for Flight 1287, Harbinger Air, Vancouver to Seattle, this is your call to board. All non-passengers must vacate the dockside area. Evening curfew will start at 7 p.m. Return to your residences immediately. Security dogs will be patrolling the area for your protection.
Heels on pavement, walking quickly.
Security dogs?
Yeah. All the ports of entry have them now, looking for stowaways.
Seriously?
The gate is right over there. You know, before the collapse, this would have been so easy. Someone could have just driven you down to Portland in like 5 hours. Cheap gas, as much as you needed. Hilarious, right?
Yes, the famous good old days.
I don't really remember the before times either. I was younger than you when the collapse started. Watch the curb.
Molly falls.
Ow, crap.
You okay? Get up, quick.
I can't. The stupid heel's stuck.
Get up, Molly. Security is looking.
Hang on. I just need to pull it there.
You can't even walk. This was a bad idea. We're going home.
Hey,
All right, good job. All right. So that was scene one from episode 1. Yeah.
so we'll listen to a little bit of that scene and then onwards from there, yeah? From scene one.
Yeah. And I'm just trying to think if there's anything. So you did hear the mention of the fiddle. So one of the reasons we wanted to make this into a podcast is because the main character plays the fiddle. And we were lucky enough to bring Molly McKinnon, who is an actual Molly, into the production to play all of the fiddle tunes and interim fiddle, which you'll hear in a few minutes. So the character Molly names her fiddle Jules, and Jules goes everywhere with Molly.
I should
Okay.
also say that in the podcast that you're about to listen to, I play Akiko and Mariko Zamani, who's not here, plays Molly. So different actors.
Oh, yes,
Just
that's a
about to
good
say
point.
that, and Camille does not play the announcer. They only play Phil.
Although she did a very good job.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so this is episode 1, just backed up just a little bit, and it'll carry on a little bit further, so you get a sense of how it transpired.
Attention all passengers. The 6 p.m. Harbinger Air Flight Vancouver for Seattle will depart in 15 minutes from the south gangplank. Passengers for Flight 1287 Harbinger Air, Vancouver to Seattle, this is your call to board. All non-passengers must vacate the dockside area. Evening curfew will start at 7 p.m. Return to your residences immediately. Security dogs will be patrolling the area for your protection.
Security dogs?
Yeah, all the ports of entry have them now, looking for stowaways.
Seriously?
The gate is right over there. You know, before the collapse, this would have been so easy. Someone could have just driven you down to Portland in like 5 hours. Cheap gas, as much as you needed. Hilarious, right?
Yes, the famous good old days.
I don't really remember the before times either. I was younger than when you are now when the collapse started. Watch the crowd! Ow! You okay? Get up!
I can't. The stupid heel's stuck.
Get up, Molly. Security is looking.
Hang on. I need to pull it.
There. You can't even walk. This was a bad idea. We're going home.
No way. I can't go back to the farm. You know how hard it was to hitchhike from an island to Vancouver?
Back to my apartment. I shouldn't be helping you do this.
I can walk just fine. See?
Oh, wait, Molly, just hold up.
I gotta go, Akiko. I'll miss the plane.
Okay, just wait a second. Look, are you really sure about this? I mean, you've never even been off the island before.
No, but I
And
have.
you're heading into a country that's open carry. And it's basically been militarized by private enterprise. Plus, the virus, you know, you're my cousin.
So?
You don't know what you're getting into. Raj told me they've got gangsters in Portland on every corner. And it's not like the government's gonna help you.
I'm 14.
Exactly. And yet somehow you've convinced me to sneak you onto an international flight. You know what? This is crazy. What am I doing?
But you like crazy. You're my cool cousin, right? And your awesome boyfriend is gonna help
Would
me.
you please just stop, Molly? Be serious. This is bigger than just you, okay? Think about Raj for a second. If he gets caught sneaking you into the US, he'll lose his job at border security.
I know.
I'll probably get blacklisted for giving you my passport, then I'll never see Raj again. Plus, your mom would totally blame me for aiding and abetting a minor.
I get it. It's a risk. I know, but I have to go. Akiko, please. This is my only chance to make things right.
Flight 1287 Harbinger Air, Vancouver to Seattle is now departing. Passengers,
Okay.
please board for your flight.
Okay, fine. Family has each other's backs, right?
Right.
When I was 14, I definitely wasn't as brave as you. But I guess I didn't have to be. I wish I could go with you.
I have Jules.
But a fiddle isn't family.
To me, she is. Look, you just have to trust me.
I know.
But if you do happen to see my mom, tell her the truth.
We better hurry. There, that's the float plane, right down at the end of the dock. See?
Okay.
Raj said to show the pilot the reservation and my passport. Last chance to change your mind.
No, I have to do this.
Give me a hug then. You will do this. You better run if you want to make it. Remember, when you get off the plane, wait for Raj to find you. Don't go through security without him. And do not talk to anyone but Raj. And tell him I said hey.
I will. Thank you. Love you. Bye.
Ganbatte! Good luck!
Okay, Molly. Keep face. Stand tall. Shoulders back. Boobs. Forget it.
So we'll pause that one there. Yeah, so that was, so I mean, you can probably pick up on a few of the things that we're playing with, the tension, just the violin makes such a great tension instrument underneath all the scary parts. And I don't know, what did you think?
It's so good. I love sci-fi, and I like how it shows in the future. Climate change is really scary, but Molly's just so strong, and I admire her so much.
I love that. Yeah, and that's the whole purpose of the whole project, is to help young people feel less terrible about the world, and like more like there's things that they can do, and that they can be strong even while we're adapting to climate change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jen, can you speak a little bit more about what made you like, what attracted you originally to the novel, to adapting it, and what were the clues in it that made you think that it would be a good dramatic podcast?
Well, for sure the fiddle.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm now at this point in my life trained to look at stories that for sound, like right, and where is the sound? And so this one just seemed to have a lot baked in. It was set on the West Coast, which I don't think there's enough cool futuristic stories set on our set here on our on this territory that we live in. And let's see, I thought that it had potential to be adapted in a way that would make it more relevant to young readers and listeners today. And the main character was called Molly, which happens to be the name of my daughter. So I probably was swayed a little bit by that too. Yeah.
June, could you speak a little bit about the process of boiling down narrative to action? Because obviously a book can give a bunch of context. So how do you give that information through dialogue, and how do you figure out what context can be given in sound and what can be given in text?
Yeah, so I think Jen did a great job of reading that passage for us, and that really illustrates the world in great detail through words, and that kind of gives you a big visual story. But when you adapt that into a podcast, what I think needs to be conveyed is the action and intention of the characters themselves. And so how do we boil down the actual narrative down to character intention, tone, and as you can hear in the podcast version, like the clicking of the heels, for example, was a really important part of the storytelling, because it's not just about the what, but it's about the how. How is she walking? What does that convey? And how does that, internally for an audience member, give you a sense of who Molly is, the relationship between Molly and her cousin Akiko? Like, what is that tension there? So we wanted to really explore the different levels of relationship and the complications in that through audio. And I think you also heard some like seagull sounds, and it gives you a bit of a world that you can immerse yourselves in. So you'll later on hear a bit more of that, I think, as the story goes on. But yeah, those were some of the changes that we had to make in order to adapt this to a podcast.
And what would you say is the challenge that you were met adapting it? Because I know there's a lot of description
right
in the...
Yeah, I think we had to really be considerate of what text we wanted to say and what we wanted to take out. I think there was a lot that we could have said, but how do we boil it down to the essentials so that the driving story keeps the audience engaged? So we couldn't spend a lot of time, for example, in Molly's world prior to leaving. We had to get her on the plane, going to her on her journey. We couldn't spend a ton of time exploring some context maybe for Akiko, because we really wanted to follow and consider Molly as the central character and her journey. So we had to make some creative adaptations so that the audience really gets to follow Molly as a central character.
And I kind of flippantly said earlier, we killed her dad. We did kill her dad, but there was a really good reason for it, I swear. And it was mainly that, because my dad is actually in the audience, so I just want to be clear about that. It was mainly that we felt that she needed a really clear and strong motivation for going on this journey at age 14 into a dangerous world. Like, it didn't make sense otherwise, because she had a fairly happy home life until something happened with her father, and she feels guilty about it, and that was part of the impetus for her leaving the island. So it was a kind of collective decision got made to kill off the dad. Yeah, and a few of the minor characters. She doesn't have a sister anymore either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think you identified something that I think is so true for theater, which is it's really about intention, right? Like your character needs an intention. And I think as a listener, you need to know what the character's intention is, because that's like the forward momentum.
Mhm.
So it's that identification of that. Right?
And that's why we wanted to work with the CHOP Theater Company to do this, because the first draft was done by the novelist, and that was great. It got the action into a serialized form. But then what was missing was that push and that drive, and I knew that the CHOP would be able to deliver that. So and they did. Yeah.
Oh, it's fun. And we chop and channel. That's what we do. Chop and channel. Mela, so you are the target audience. Your kind of age range is the target audience. So I'm curious about when you first read the script or when you're hearing it now, what was the thing that kind of brought you in? Was it the character, the themes, the personalities, the dialogue?
For me, honestly, it's just so captivating. Like, you just want to keep listening. And I really like the fiddle, and I've always wanted to play it. I do already play an instrument, but I do one day want to try playing it. And like I said, Molly just inspires me so much, and she's so brave. I could like never be like her, but it's pretty inspiring.
And do you listen
get
to
up on
podcasts?
stage?
Yeah, you do a lot of inspiring
It's kind of
things.
different than going into a world where you could potentially die.
Do you listen to dramatic podcasts?
I mean, podcasts, I've been trying to find a good one, so I'm very excited for this one. But I watched another like dramatic sci-fi show, and it was really good. And I watched it during COVID, and it's just so amazing that it shows like how our world's going to be in the future, and it just makes me want to act and do stuff and like save the world.
Thank you. Great. Well, maybe we can hear a little bit of Mela. This is another scene. This is from a couple episodes later, right, Jen?
Yeah, so this is episode 3, and it's let me just fill you in. So what's happening? So, spoiler alert: Molly makes it across the border, and she gets down to Portland, where her crabby grandfather lives, who doesn't want much to do with her because he's actually estranged from her mother, and that's the mother left at one time kind of a wealthy family in Portland, and she went off and married a farmer and moved to Hippieville, British Columbia, Gulf Island. And so the grandfather's kind of never forgiven her. And so Molly goes to try to be reunited with her grandfather because he's a doctor, and she wants to bring him back to the island where she's from, because her mom she's in her mid-40s and she's pregnant, and she's got some problems with the pregnancy, and they don't have a doctor on the island. And so Molly's trying to bring the grandfather back. He's fighting. He doesn't want to go. And so this is sort of shortly after she's arrived, and he's told her very rudely, don't leave the house, like stay right there, don't move a finger kind of thing. And, I'll be right back. Don't go outside. It's dangerous out there. Lock the doors, Anyway, so of course Molly doesn't listen, and she goes out, and she finds a hole in the fence in the backyard, and she peeks through it, and there's kind of a secret garden in there, and she goes over into the garden, and she is met by these 2 little children that live next door. And she's also been warned about the man who lives next door. He's meant to be dangerous. Let's see if I can get this to play. There we go.
It's a forest.
Who there? I said who there?
Please don't see me.
Shh. Quiet, for God's sake, girl.
Jack, what are you doing?
Shh. I said quiet.
If there's someone there, you better listen up. I better not catch you in my yard. Huh. Damn dog.
What are you even doing here, Jack?
I had a feeling you'd get yourself into trouble.
I was just looking around.
Yeah, you are your mother's daughter. Keep your voice down and stay low. Guy's a weirdo. He might have a gun.
Seriously? Who is he anyway?
Next door neighbor named Doug. His sister used to live there, but she and her husband died in the spring. Virus. At least that's what I assume. He takes care of her kids now.
You've never talked to him?
No,
He's dangerous.
What do you mean?
I don't like the look of him.
But
Take a quick peek into his yard. Right here. There's a gap in the fence. Keep your head down, though.
wow, now that's a garden.
Yep, that's where all the bruised tomatoes come from. The only guy in the neighborhood with decent food. His sister was the gardener. This guy just chucks all the spoiled vegetables over the fence. Can't tell if it's an insult, a kindness, or if he's just lazy.
But that doesn't mean he's dangerous. Look at those bush beans.
Just don't go snooping around over there, okay? And don't tell anyone about that garden.
There's so much food. Why doesn't he just share it?
This isn't the island, okay? Get your butt back in the house.
But maybe he could.
Now.
Hey,
Oh,
who are you?
good morning. I'm Molly.
I'm Brandy. That's Michael, my brother. He loves worms.
Well, worms are cool.
Worms can breathe through their skin. Michael, shh. What are you doing?
Weeding. Is this your garden?
Yep,
Nice.
I'm 8. My brother's 5. He doesn't know what weeds are, but I do. This is a carrot. That's a weed.
You're pretty smart.
I know.
Michael, Brandy, what's going on out here? The hell are you doing in my garden?
Hi, you must be Doug. I'm Molly. I'm staying next door with Jack Buckley. He was telling me about the vegetables, thrown over the fence. And I was looking at your garden yesterday.
And you thought you'd just help yourself?
No. Actually, I live on a farm in Canada, and gardening is my responsibility. So it looks like you can use some help over here.
So
and
that
I
was
thought
you snooping around yesterday. Knew I hurt someone.
Since you've been giving my grandpa food, I thought maybe I should come over and, do some weeding to thank you.
Well, did it occur to ask first?
I was up so early and you weren't around, so I just got started. Early bird gets the worm and all that. Look at the tomatoes.
So that's that.
Yeah. Nice.
So I think it's really neat the way she can play down younger and play up older, and yeah, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah. Very cool. Okay, we are going to skip ahead a little bit to the next episode, episode 4. Jen, what? From meeting the next door neighbor, meeting the kids, what other context do we need for this scene?
Okay, so I guess the context you need for this scene is an introduction of Spill.
Yeah, right.
So Spill is a unique character who was met on the train. In this world, the infrastructure doesn't work very well. Bridges are falling apart. Trains don't run on time. Sometimes don't come at all. You're taking your life into your hands if you get into a plane, et cetera, et cetera. So she's on this train journey and she gets kind of robbed on the train by a bit of a sort of a street urchin who is this Spill character. But Molly doesn't know them as Spill. Molly knows them as a different name. And that's part of this character is that they constantly change their name in different contexts, which is at first a little bit confusing, but hopefully as you listen to the podcast, it becomes clear why. So at this point, I think we do know that this character chooses to be called Spill. And this character has turned out at the end of the train journey, I think felt bad that they had robbed Molly because Molly was such a sitting duck. She was just this dewy-eyed girl from a Gulf island. And so Spill sets out to try to make it up to Molly and sort of tries to help her and take her under their wing a little bit. And so they're starting to become friends at this point, and Molly is still a little on the fence about how far she can trust Spill, but she definitely likes Spill, and there's even maybe a little bit of chemistry developing between the two of them. I think does that sound
That's
like good
perfect,
context?
Jen. That's a great context.
Yeah, thank you.
For this scene, June will read Molly.
Cool.
Camille reads Spill.
Oh, am I doing sound effects?
I can read them if you want.
You go ahead. You
Okay.
you do the sound effects.
Sound. The sound of an outdoor summer day. Cloudy, a bit of wind. Spill arrives pushing 2 bicycles, spokes turning wheels on gravel. Spill knocks on the door opens.
Hey there, handsome Molly.
Oh, hi, Spill. Wow, 2 bikes?
Thought the red one would suit you.
Looks about my size.
We gotta go. If you still want to try to get on the internet, we got an hour before they cut off the connection.
Shoot. Coming.
Outdoor sounds continue. Transitional music. Now we are outside on the street. Transitional music fades out and Molly and Spill are riding now. So some wind, bicycle spokes turning, the odd horse and buggy or voices, but mainly on a deserted suburban street. Heavy breathing as they pedal uphill.
This is some hill.
Keep up, handsome.
At least I've got a few working gears. That thing you're riding looks antique.
Gotta stay in shape in my line of work.
Which is?
Procurement.
Right. Hey, what happened to that bike you had before?
What bike? Let's go, handsome. You're falling behind.
I'm not. You know that sweet cruiser you had when I met you on the Max train?
Oh, that one. Traded it.
For what?
The one you're riding.
Skids to a stop.
You traded your bike for me?
Well, it was the only way to get you out here. I want you to be able to contact your family.
That's so...
You're welcome. Hey, are you okay?
Yeah, fine. I'm just a bit out of breath.
Let's take a break. Want some water?
They rustle in the bag.
Thanks. I should have thought to bring some.
Better?
Yeah. Since I've got down here, you're the only person who's helped me. Everyone's so paranoid. I thought my grandpa Jack would want to come back with me to Canada, but he
seems a little stuck in the past.
Exactly. And I really need him to wake up. I mean, what's he doing down here anyway? He has nobody. He could come home with me. We need a doctor up there. And my mom...
What's wrong with your mom?
She's pregnant and sick. We lost my dad a couple months ago, and so the whole farm, it's kind of on her.
Oh, wow. I'm really sorry, Molly.
Don't be. Everyone's sorry, but...
But what?
I'm the one who should be sorry.
What does that mean?
It's too hard to explain.
You can tell me.
My dad...
We can stop there.
Okay.
Yeah. Cliffhanger.
Cliffhanger. You have to listen to the podcast and find out what happened. I should have mentioned too, they're on their way to try to find like the one internet connection still functioning in Portland that is in this rich lady's house. And that's the sort of the world has crumbled to that effect, that only the very, very super wealthy have access to the internet. Yeah, so shall we listen to what we did with that scene? Yeah, and then maybe a little beyond it. Let's see. Okay, ready?
Everyone's sorry, but
what?
I'm the one that should be sorry.
What does that mean?
It's too hard to explain.
You can tell me.
My dad, he was a vet. He was on a farm call for an injured horse, and I was there helping him. He fell, and the horse struck him in the head, and he died. That's it. That's what happened.
That's awful.
It is, but the worst part is I was supposed to be holding the reins, calming the horse while he examined it. But I was thinking about this new song I was learning, and I wasn't watching at all. I was kind of drifting, So when Dad fell, I wasn't there. I wasn't where I was supposed to be, and the horse panicked.
Yeah.
Then the horse it reared up on its hind legs all of a sudden and struck him. It caught me off guard, so I couldn't stop it.
Hey, it's not your fault.
It was. If I had been paying attention, it wouldn't have happened.
You don't know that for sure. It sounds like an accident.
That's what my mom thinks. But if she really knew, I couldn't look her in the eyes. So I just left. I have to make it better.
You can't blame yourself. Do you think your dad would have blamed you?
I don't know. It's just that he's gone. And my grandma's gone. My mom and Jack aren't talking. I feel like I'm the only one who can fix it all, make it right. I just feel so responsible and alone.
Well, you're not alone now. Here, Mrs. Reyes isn't going to let you into her house with that huge wad of snot coming out of your nose.
Oh no. Gross.
One more. This is Agent Spill reporting. Both nostrils are clear. I repeat, all clear. Sergeant, you're now cleared for the mission. Ready?
General, I was born ready. Why are you helping me, Spill?
Just your friendly neighborhood borrower at your service.
No, seriously.
I am serious.
What's in it for you?
Like I said before, I like underdogs.
Really?
What?
Are you ever going to be real with me? Or are you always going to hide?
I'm not hiding. I'm just a private person.
I'll spare you. Keep it to yourself.
Wait, Molly, I don't mean to be a jerk. It's just, there aren't that many people that I can trust.
I said I'll spare you.
But you're different. You're like a version of myself that I wish I could be.
What's that supposed to mean?
The one that took a risk to find something new.
What?
Hey, we're here. Down there. See?
Oh my God. Is that the house?
Yep.
I thought my grandparents' house was big. That's like 10 times the size.
The housekeeper is this guy named George. He's my contact, and I'm going to convince him to let you use the computer. You're going to have to be sneaky to get around Mrs. Reyes.
What happens if I get caught?
Not an option. Be bold, handsome Molly. You've already got a pirate name. Time to live up to it.
Okay, but still, I'm not.
And if you need to call me by a name when we get in there, it's Quinn.
Quinn? For real?
Just for now.
Okay, Quinn, let's do this.
No, Quinn, absolutely not.
But George!
You know the rules. Mrs. Reyes is very strict about visitors. No one's allowed in the house.
Right, but my cousin, Miranda, isn't from around here, and so she's not used to the heat.
Quinn, is it getting dark already? Oh, why is my head pounding?
Please, the air conditioning will help her. I'm just worried she'll pass out right here on the porch from heat stroke.
Forget it. Leave your delivery with me, and then you two should skedaddle.
Look, I'll even help you hang up all this laundry. Please, just take her through to the office. I know there's good air conditioning in there. Just a few minutes.
It's okay, Quinn. I think the pain is going away. I can't feel my face anymore.
Okay, fine. Follow me.
I owe you, George.
5 minutes, Quinn. And those shirts better be hung up when I get back here. All right, then. Sit down here and drink some water. I'll come back for you in a few minutes.
Thank you, George. I really appreciate it. Okay, computer. Bingo. Okay. Dear Mom, I'm alive. I'm sorry I left without telling you, and I'm sorry it's taken me 2 weeks to be in contact. I'm in Portland. The city is very different from home, but I found Grandpa, and I'm going to bring him back with me to help. But he's stubborn as hell. Missy loves Mom, love to G and Bachan. There, that ought to do it. Oh yeah, and yes, don't be mad at Akiko. She was just trying to help. And send.
George, have you seen my son, Umbrella? He used me as off the charts, and I'm going to be late for my appointment. George? George?
Oh, I can explain.
Oh my God, George! George, help! I'm in danger!
Sorry, Mrs. Reyes.
What is going on here? Are there more of them?
She's with me, Mrs. Reyes.
What? Oh. Hello, Quinn.
This is my cousin Miranda. She was feeling the heat, and I asked George to let her inside to cool down. He said no, but I insisted.
Of course. My apologies, George. Apologize to Quinn for me.
She's terribly sorry, Quinn.
I'm so sorry I screamed, dear. I thought you were
It's all right, Mrs. Reyes. I won't tell my boss about the incident. Miranda, are you feeling better?
Yes, Quinn, I am. And thank you, Miss Reyes, so much for...
Okay then, let's go, Miranda. We still need to make a few more deliveries. Mrs. Reyes, always a pleasure seeing you. I'll come by again next week.
That was amazing. How did you get so good at lying?
Just natural, I guess. Did you send the email?
Just made it. Who does she think she is? She was scared of you.
That's your last chance, Molly. I said don't get caught. I won't save you next time.
Was that thunder?
Uh-oh, another typhoon.
Shoot, the tomatoes in Doug's garden will all flood. I gotta get back to cover them.
Doug's garden?
Yeah, the guy next door. I garden for him in exchange. He gives us free veggies.
Be careful with him.
He's not so bad. He acts like this big, tough guy, but he's mostly just keeps to himself.
Just don't get too involved with him. Promise? I said promise?
Promise. Sheesh.
Here, let's take cover till this passes.
Yeah, bye. Could you keep that?
Hontoda.
Hontoda. Wait, how do you know that saying? You can speak Japanese?
Skoshi?
Skoshi? How?
I used to deliver for this guy, Mr. Tanabe, who worked at the market. He was from there, Nagano, I think?
Oh, wow. No way. My Ji-chan and Ba-chan are from Nagano.
Your grandpa and grandma? Seriously?
Yeah, and that's so cool. You know what that means?
Mr. Tanabe taught me some Japanese. Do you speak it?
A bit. My dad and I were born in Canada, so we mostly spoke English at home. But my Ji-chan and Ba-chan still speak to me. I really want to learn more so I can speak with them fluently.
You sound great to me. Psycho!
I've never met a white person interested in Japan.
When I was a kid, I was obsessed with castles, language, ancient history, you name it. Then I met Mr. Tanabe. He's a cobbler who makes the most gorgeous leather boots. I even apprenticed with him for a while because he told me he'd take me there one day.
Really?
Yeah. Japan has one of the oldest standing structures in the world. I'm sure you know that already, but who wouldn't want to see a castle from the Edo period? Almost 500 years old. There's not even buildings 50 years old around here, except maybe Mrs. Rice Mansion.
You're a total nerd.
Shut up.
A cool nerd, okay?
Thank you.
Hey, maybe we can visit Mr. Tanabe after this.
He went back to Japan a few years ago. He said he'd come back, but
Oh,
it's fine. People come and go.
you could visit him.
It's not in the cards for me.
How come?
It's just not.
Oh,
Looks like the rain is easing.
so that's a typhoon.
No, lucky. Just a late summer storm. We get them here now since the Pacific warmed. Usually puts me out of work for at least a week.
Maybe your veggies are saved after all.
I've got to go make a delivery. Later.
Okay, bye.
Some interesting stuff in there. Hey, like, does that bring it back a little bit, Camille? Like,
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It's really cool to hear it with the Foley and the what really got me was hearing the bikes. It I really had the image of us pushing our bikes together. Yeah, it was really cool to hear that.
Yeah, it helps you picture it.
For
right, the
sure.
sound.
For sure.
I think the character of Spill is such an interesting character because you can actually hear them opening and closing, right? Like they're opening up, they're bonding with Molly, and then they just shrink back into their shell
Yeah.
because there's a mystery around Spill, and Spill is part of a kind of a dark underworld. So kind of a nice person caught up in a dark web.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. Maybe you want to talk more about the character and what that was like.
Yeah, I really enjoyed playing Spill. I think that's like a cool obstacle to have of you don't choose kind of the circumstances you're in to survive. But you have to do them, but you still want to help somebody and, be a good person. I think they had a really interesting obstacle to play with. So it made it very natural and very easy. And I love scenes also. I love doing little crush scenes. So it was really fun to do that with Molly and stuff, and to see their relationship develop and how Molly changes Spill and makes them brave as well. Yeah.
And speaking of changes, we did change the character of Molly quite a bit, right? So June was instrumental in figuring that out. Maybe would you like to say a few words about that process?
Can you elaborate a little bit more on the?
So I was thinking about when in the novel version, for example, Molly does not have Japanese background at all, and that's something that we did in this adaptation to make the just make the whole story a bit more relevant. And I think that's a nice moment where the two characters bond over like their common interest in Japan. So I just wondered if you wanted to talk about that.
Yeah, we wanted to like bring in more of that. So I'm Japanese Canadian. I can speak Japanese, and my parents are immigrants, so I have both. Like I feel very bicultural inside of myself, and so we really wanted to bring a more intersectional and complex dynamic to Molly's lived experience, being someone who maybe grew up with some knowledge of Japan, but also distant from it in some ways because of the cultural difference as well as sort of the intergenerational difference between her and her father and then her grandfather and grandmother. And so we wanted to bring some of the more contemporary intersectionalities of one's experience into this world that, we hope that young folks like Mela would be listening to. So to incorporate some of those realities, we drew more of Molly's, the complexities that she has, maybe the kinship that she feels with Spill in having an ally, someone she can talk to in Japanese or has some sort of cultural understanding. That really helps blossom and, pushes them into a more deeper relationship throughout the podcast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
I'm curious as actors, and maybe Camille, you want to answer this because that scene required so much vulnerability and so much of a picture of what the world was. The recording room that we were in was miles away from a gravel road. It was a kind of a dark.
It was
cool
okay. It was a
little,
super grungy.
It was a grungy little like recording room. And so I'm curious about, you said this is your first time, which no one would ever know that, but what is the process that you undertake to kind of like be in the moment and see it all? Acting, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I think similar to like theater and film and TV, like, we have these imaginary circumstances that as actors, we immerse ourselves in and have to envision whatever the set may look like, whatever the stage may look like. So doing that and then really connecting with my scene partner. And I was lucky to have my Molly there as well. So we got to play off of each other. I think I know for some voice acting, they just do it alone, and that would be an interesting thing in my process. So I was very fortunate to have another actor there to play off of and have that be real for us in the moment. Yeah.
Yeah, we really wanted to try to make that happen and make it as organic as possible for the actors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah, we had, I think, like 4 people in the room. So we all did our scenes together. So it kind of felt like theater, honestly, in that way of acting with your scene partner and stuff. And then I just kind of like relied on you guys to tell me, like, because with voice stuff, I'm not as familiar. So sometimes in more intense scenes, I had to like ramp it up a little more to like showcase that. But yeah, mostly felt the same as theater acting and acting for film and TV. Yeah.
I think that there's changes in the writing too. Like you can't rely on the sound effects to necessarily make everything clear. Sound effects are magical. They can make a lot clear, but like if you have a big crash, the listener doesn't know what happened unless you say something like, "Are you okay?" or your shoe is stuck. Like sometimes you have to actually spell it out just a little bit more so that the audience doesn't get left in the dust.
Totally. Yeah.
I'm going to open it up to the floor. And if anybody has any questions or comments, either from what they heard or for any of the performers or for Jen as kind of the mastermind putting it all together. Have any questions?
Like, what is a podcast? How do I listen to a podcast? It's on your phone.
I have a question maybe for June and adapting this novel. Did the pandemic change how you went about perceiving the virus that's in the novel itself?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, so we did this mid-pandemic during lockdown. Amelia and I often met on Zoom, and so we were distant. Yeah, I mean, it made it obviously come to the fore in a way that, was not anticipated when this book was written. And so we wanted to be really careful. We wanted to consider this as part of the world, but we also wanted to be really careful about how we illustrated in this particular podcast because we're so immersed in it. We didn't want to necessarily make the entire thing about it, but as part of this specific universe's reality that was also happening to us in this world at the same time. And so there was definitely consideration around that. We also wanted to play around with the idea of like just the sense of imminence and that what that brings into the world, the sense of danger that's all around us. So it wasn't necessarily just about the pandemic or the virus, but we sort of drew on that to build tension in the world.
Yeah, the UV index.
The UV index, exactly. Like
Yeah.
putting on specific suits or specific, in their radio announcements, you'll hear like, different indexes or different announcements that sort of illustrate the dangers around us. And so the virus was certainly a part of it, but part of the overall tension that's built into the storyline.
Yeah, good question.
Yeah.
Question. So I know you guys sort of made some changes to the story a little bit to make it more contemporary and then also have it fit more to the sort of podcast style. And I was just wondering, what were the sort of like anchors that kept you in the world of the story and the sort of themes and the storylines? So what were those things that sort of kept you going back to like keeping those core things?
It's a great question. Do you have something, Jane, or do you want me to start?
Yeah, do you want to?
I can start.
Yeah.
Okay, so for me, this is a story about a young teenage girl who is finding her power. So that was the pillar for me, and also it's a story about bubbles. So speaking of the pandemic, like we all became familiar with what bubbles are, and Molly and her mom live on a bubble island. Like it's a Gulf island. It's an unnamed Gulf island, but it's basically, think Gabriel Island or something like that. Lovely, beautiful, sunny all the time. And so they have this nice community where everyone cooperates and there's farmers markets and nobody has a lot of money, but they get by. They are not as faced with the dangers as people that live in the cities. And so this is sort of, I think for me, it was about her process of opening her eyes to what it means to try to be good and kind and use the values that she was raised with under duress. And it's not as easy, right? And Spill is an example of a character who is equally good and kind, but who makes different ethical decisions for survival because of the environment. And so I think that was a big theme that we were playing with is sort of like Molly's I don't know what you call that, the scales, the veil, something dropping off of her so that she can actually see a bit more clearly and widen her world a bit. But also the hardened people in the city being shocked, surprised, initially angry, and then pleased that this girl wants to help them with their gardening, and like she's bringing certain community values from her upbringing into this hard world and making a difference. It makes me think of things like urban gardens and, like when you think about people banding together in like abandoned neighborhoods in Detroit and rebuilding them from the ground up, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I'll add that I think something that is core to the story that we really wanted to shine a light on is, Molly and her journey and her arc being central. And we made her 14 because we thought that was a really good age to play around with. Not many podcasts sort of highlight 14-year-old Japanese Canadian girls on a grand journey to save her family. And so we really wanted to create a world in which a character such as Molly could thrive, and we could see different dimensions of her, both her tenacity, prowess, but also her innocence and insecurities. and all of the characters that surround her, bringing that to the fore so that the audience can really see from the perspective of Molly, who, you know, we rarely get to see on a podcast.
Totally.
I think that's a great place to end. The core of the story.
Yeah,
That's
good. Thank you for asking that question. That was a good one.
Thank you all for coming. It's very meaningful for us to launch this podcast, and it's wonderful to have you here listening with us. So thank you so much.
Where can we find the podcast?
Well,
Jay.
if you come up to the front, you can scan this QR code, and then it will take you to the podcast. But you can also find it by going to Spotify, Apple, any place where you would normally get a podcast, and just looking for Handsome Molly, or you can go to the Jar Audio website. I don't know if you're going to put it up on the Chop, possibly the Chop website shortly. So yeah, so we'll put it out all the places we know how.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.